it is a lot of organizations start where they get some clients and then, oh crap, we got too much work now. Let's get some people to do the work, but the client's always at the top, always. And then maybe care a little bit about some of the people on accident, but clients number one, always.
Number one.
And it's upside down, like care
Yes.
about the people that you have, like genuinely care, like have an interest in them as humans, because you hired the human, not just the technical skills part. And then from caring, you're going to get more and better people. And then you're going to get all the clients. Because if it's the other way around, where it's clients all the time, you're going to cycle through people. And things have changed now where there aren't people waiting to get hired. And so you're going to lose clients that way because you're not going to have any people to do the work. And so if you keep your people top, then everything good will happen. You'll have to pass go. You'll have to collect $200. You'll have to be profitable. You'll have to grow.
Welcome to AFO Wealth Management Forward, a podcast about finance, accounting, technology, and entrepreneurship. We apply our decades' worth of experience and insight into what makes businesses work, so we can help others grow both personally and professionally. In this ever-evolving marketplace, we help accounting firms and financial advisors grow their practice through the adoption of holistic wealth management services. Learn from industry leaders and subject matter experts to unlock the secrets of their success. A podcast that shows people and companies the transformative power of technology so they don't fear it, but instead harness it. Don't fight the robots, team up with them. And here are your hosts, Rory Henry, Director of Business Development, and CEO Rob Santos of Arrowroot Family Office.
All right. Hello, everyone. I have another special guest joining me today. He's a recovering CPA. He's also a former stand-up comedian who also is doing keynote speeches on workplace culture. He's empowering leaders and organizations to boost employee engagement and productivity by cultivating a positive workplace culture. He's the author of a book that I just finished, What's Your And? I'm thrilled to have John Garrett join us today. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Rory. It's super excited to be here as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways we can dig in here. But for our audience, those who don't know you, John, can you give a background on what led you to this What's Your And concept and maybe your background as a CPA?
Yeah. So I graduated from the University of Notre Dame and went to Big Four with PwC and did mostly internal audit, merger acquisition kind of work. And then picked up a little bit of a hobby of doing stand-up for fun at night. And and so I do open mics. And then I started doing paid shows, and I started taking vacation to go do paid shows.
Oh my gosh.
And so then in May of 2005, I had I'm out. I'm going to see what happens here, which I don't advise. Just because you have a hobby or a passion doesn't mean that it should become your living. That's how Occupy Wall Street started.
Yeah.
So
you're not one of those life coaches that say, follow your passion.
No, do not follow your passion. Like, have your passion on the side. Yeah. It's a hobby for a reason, and you're not supposed to be good at it. You're not supposed to make a living at it. And even when you make that jump, like I did, you still have to have something else. And so that's really, I was speaking at a conference, and how What's Your And started was a guy told a meeting professional, I know John Garrett. That's the guy who did Comedy at Night. Yeah. And so she comes over to me. I'm backstage getting mic'd up, getting ready to go in front of, I think it's about 900 people, huge forensics conference. And I was like, can this wait till after? And she's like, well, do you know this guy? And I was like, I've never heard that name in my life.
No idea.
Yeah, no idea. And I got done after, and I looked on LinkedIn. We were not connected. And he was in my first PwC office in St. Louis. And I was like, well, he's in tax. I don't know how taxes work. I've never done any of that. And so but he remembered me for a hobby I did outside of work. And this was 12 years later. And, he didn't remember me for how many billable hours I worked in the year, or being one of the first promoted in my start class, or passing the CPA exam, or being hand selected to be on the largest financial services client that the firm had in North America. None of those really great things that boost your resume. He remembered me for a hobby that I was no good at. When you're new, you're not good at comedy. And so that's really what started What's Your And is you're an accountant and something else. You're a financial planner and something else. You're a wealth advisor and a ballroom dancer, a motorcycle rider, a volunteer at the dog shelter, a runner. And none of these things you're good at, but you enjoy doing them. And that's really the genesis of it all was that.
Yeah. And I found podcasting to be so rewarding here, John, because although people come on my podcast and they talk about what they're passionate about, what their work is, but you get to dive deeper and to find out who that person is. It's so much more rewarding. Like, I learned so much through osmosis, and then I have a connection with each and every one of my guests that I have on, because I get a little bit of insight on who they are and what they love to do.
Because that's who they are. Yeah. What you do is not who you are.
Who you are.
Let's say someone listening is a CPA. Well, you were you before you became a CPA, and you're going to be you after you retire. Yeah. So don't try and tell me that being a CPA is who you are, because that's not. That's what you do. That's a fraction of who you are. And if we really think about what we do for a living, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15% of my identity. I mean, you have friends, you have faith, you have hobbies, you have passions, you have these other interests outside of work. You have all these other dimensions to who you are. And yet, because society and the way we're raised and the education system and everything, the only side that we point out is the work-facing side. Yeah. And all the other dimensions to us, kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons dice, where there's all these other dimensions that no one gets to see.
Are you an accountant looking to generate more revenue and secure your future success as automation and artificial intelligence revolutionize the accounting profession? If so, contact us at AFO Wealth Management Forward. We specialize in helping accountants and advisors just like you build a custom brand to pinpoint your optimal clientele, generate highly qualified leads through our data-driven digital marketing, and execute wealth management growth services to bring more value to your firm and your client's life. Our strategic approach to branding, marketing, and wealth management is carefully tailored to attract ideal clients, increase customer retention rates, and cultivate lasting relationships with clients across generations. Visit wealthmanagementforward.com to book your free consultation to find out how you can elevate your practice.
And those are the coolest parts.
Yeah. I agree. No, I agree. And we talk about the 8 dimensions of well-being on the podcast here, John. I briefly mentioned to you before our recording.
Yeah.
And the whole life planning we do, it's not just financial. It's the physical, it's the emotional, it's the spiritual, it's the social well-being. So really looking at your whole life, and looking at your whole life is you're looking at your hobbies and what you like doing. Like, I like college football. I love the UCLA Bruins, John. I dislike the USC Trojans, which I think you do as
same.
well.
100% same. 100%. I mean, mine's Notre Dame, but same. We have the same arch nemesis for the same reasons, really. They're the worst.
Yeah, they are the worst. We can have a whole podcast on how much we dislike USC.
Very much. We both have gold helmets.
Exactly, right?
There's a lot of similarities here.
Right. Well, I found fascinating because at your talk at Randy Crabtree's conference, a couple stats stood out to me. And that was the research at Carnegie Mellon that talked about 85% of advice is emotional, and really 15% of advice is technical. Can you talk about that study and how you're helping firms out there or companies out there apply that?
Or just the source of your success, your career success. Right. Is interpersonal skills. And yet, all of our education is technical skills. All of our, continuing education, technical skills. What do we pride ourselves on? Technical skills. What do we judge other people on? Technical skills. Yeah. What are we bonused on? What are we promoted on? Like, all of that is based on our technical skills, and absolutely be good at your job. But every single person listening to this podcast is good at their job. Yeah. So who's not, really? And so, plus or minus, maybe 1%, we're all pretty much the same. There's always some outlier, some, Harry Potter, Doogie Howser wizard, that's whatever. But most of us are all right down the middle. And so that's not a differentiator. It's really not. But then, you come across research like that shows that, actually your career success and your financial success is based on your interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
And that study was done in 1913,
Yeah.
over 100 years ago. And yet still we can't turn this aircraft carrier around. It's like, come on, everybody.
Right.
And, and I mean, it's research there. There was research done at Duke University, and they found that, if you have, the more dimensions that you have to your life, then less anxiety and less depression. Because if your whole identity is work and you get some bad news or a client doesn't choose you or whatever, then that's a 100% blow to who you think you are.
Yeah.
And, so if you have other dimensions, then yeah, sure, that stings a little bit, but that's not your whole identity and not your source of confidence.
Yeah.
And so there's actual research behind this that shows that it matters.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast, and it was a financial planning podcast, and they talked about identity when it comes to retirement. And it's harder for men, especially those who have high power jobs, to retire into something because their identity is tied up into who they were at their job. Their social circles are tied up into who they were at their job. Women are a lot better at it. They have social circles outside of the workforce. They actually, the funny thing, they said the cohort as far as age and gender that was the happiest was divorced women age 60 to 65.
Oh my gosh, really? That's amazing.
They didn't have to be at home with the husband who maybe hadn't gone through
hadn't
gone
deal with
through
all that. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's alarming when I meet people, through, the consulting work or through my speaking that are, Accenture, for instance, has a mandatory retirement at a certain point. And I've met several of their partners that have said, I'm being forced to retire in 2 years and I don't know what I'm going to go do. And that is scary because you have a lot of time left, a lot of years, good years left, and you have no reason to get out of bed. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And especially like as successful as they've been, you're fine financially. So but you have no real motive to do anything. And like, you have no other part of who you are, because what happens is if you don't exercise these ands, and they don't have to be every week or every month, but twice a year, whatever you feel like doing, they go dormant. And then eventually they're extinct. And you forget what you used to like to do. Which is like, wow. I mean, just so scary to me that a person who's highly educated and successful forgets what lights their soul up.
Yeah.
And because we've been so trained and so indoctrinated to not just be honest with, I'm good at my job and I like my job, but what really lights me up is on a Saturday in November when USC's playing UCLA. That's what lights me up.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to say that, you think, where no one asks you about that or to share about that. But the minute you show that side of you, like, you and I have an instant connection that's stronger than just some random person that's, walking down the street. And so it's just like, I'll forever know, like, whenever, USC plays UCLA, I'll think of you, I will message you. And then after UCLA wins, we'll laugh and laugh and laugh. And so, it's just a human connection that's a lot stronger and just a little bit deeper than that surface level work connection.
Yeah. So how do we go about helping organizations out there start cultivating this what's and mentality so they can improve that workplace culture?
Yeah. And I mean, it's really having that people-centric leadership. It can start anywhere in the organization. But it definitely helps if leaders are people-centric, meaning that your people are the priority. If there's a graphic that when I spoke that I shared of just my view of it is, a lot of organizations start where they get some clients and then, oh crap, we got too much work now. Let's get some people to do the work, but the client's always at the top, always. And then maybe care a little bit about some of the people on accident, but clients number one, always. And it's upside down, like, care about the people that you have, like, genuinely care, like have an interest in them as humans, because you hired the human, not just the technical skills part. And then from caring, you're going to get more and better people. And then you're going to get all the clients. Because if it's the other way around where it's clients all the time, you're going to cycle through people. And things have changed now where there aren't people waiting to get hired. And so you're going to lose clients that way because you're not going to have any people to do the work. And so if you keep your people top, then everything good will happen. You'll have to pass go. You'll have to collect $200. You'll have to be profitable. You'll have to grow. You'll have to get more clients. It'll just happen. But it's scary to people because they only think of step one, which is make money and be profitable.
Clients,
They don't think about, well, if we go to step two, then we have to pass step one. So, if we take care of our people, then of course we'll get clients. And so it's really just having that perspective from a leadership side of things. And then it's also just walking the talk. Leaders are humans too. And I find that in the C-suite or in the partner suite, yeah, sure, we know about each other, but as soon as a senior associate walks in, so then the FASB said, and it's like, what are you doing? So the more that you can show vertically within your organization that you are a human and you have these other dimensions to who you are, then the better it is. And also it humanizes you because when we were 22 and got out of school, man, partners and C-suite people were super intimidating. And it's not because of who they were, it's just their title. It's like the principal's office, and so the more that you can come down off that pedestal on purpose intentionally, the better it is. And so then, people want to work for a leader, not just a manager, that whole, dichotomy. So really it's that kind of perspective. And then it's just ask. Just take some time and ask. There was a study at Johns Hopkins University just recently that I read that 40 seconds of genuine interaction with another person every day, less anxiety, and a more sense of belonging. 40 seconds. That's literally like ask somebody a question and then listen.
Genuinely
and have one follow-up question. And then listen, and then there's 40 seconds. If you do that every day, then your people will feel a greater sense of belonging and less loneliness and more engagement. And it's free. It's free.
And I always think of, we're living in this hybrid remote world at times. How do we do that if we're not in the same environment where we can't just pass somebody on the hallway and have those 40 seconds of genuine interaction?
Because and that's what I tell people all the time is it's the non-billable minutes between the billable hours, those non-chargeable minutes, when you're going to the break room, when you're going to the bathroom, when you're just walking down the hall, in person, those things would happen organically. They would have to. You would bump into people. You would have those conversations. Hey, did you see the game? Like whatever. And now they don't. And so now, when you're doing the mentor sessions one-on-one, a big thing I like to do is start it with, I know you love to go mountain biking. When's the last time you went? Show me some pictures. I'd love to see it. You haven't gone? Well, let's get it on the calendar. Because that's the other thing too, is, people set goals for the year and they're always work-related goals. Well, how about we have some personal goals in there too? I want to go on 2 vacations to, one to Hawaii. And it's like, okay, well, it's on the organization to make sure that, hey, do you have time to do that? And if you're not, because if my whole view is that if you're not living your best life, then you're not going to do your best work. So, if your outside of work life is chaos and sad and just miserable, then you are not as productive at work. So it's in the best interest of the organization and the leadership to make sure that your people are living their best life and make it work. It's not hard, but just prioritize those conversations. And then the work will go.
It's scary, John, what you're saying as far as living your best life and talking about really looking at your whole life. We talk about this in Human First Financial Guidance. We talk about living your best life. That we're really just money is a way to optimize someone's overall holistic well-being, right?
Definitely.
And how do we get in there and find out how to get Susie that extra vacation outside of the holidays and with her family, And, how do we set that actual goal? So there's this big push in holistic financial planning or behavioral finance, what we call human side of advice, to really finding out those goals and those values that can help people get to those goals. So if someone really enjoys or values their family, let's find a way to get that family vacation on the actual books, and we can start saving enough money to do so. So you're speaking my language here, John.
No, I love it, man, because we're humans. We have so many other dimensions to who we are and so many parts to who we are. And yet, we're so trained to just show one side all the time. And it's, the work money-making side is the only John that you're allowed to see. And then all the other Johns just die on the vine and just like rot and dry up and shrivel up. And then when this John is forced to retire, meaning your identity it goes away. Well, now all the other ones are gone too. And you're just a lost soul. And it's like, what lights you up? There's some organizations that I've worked with where in the interview process, they actually ask, there's a huge law firm that's like, besides going to law school, what else do you like to do? And if their answers are only watch Law and Order or read law books or whatever, they don't even bring them in for an interview. I don't even care if you're Harvard 4.0, like whatever. Nope. You're not going to fit in here. And so it's that. It's also, during the interview process, hey, I know this isn't your dream job. What's your dream job? Like, how can we help you help us while you're getting to where you want to be? One day I want to be the CFO of the, Los Angeles Rams. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, let's get you to the point where you're able to then make that leap. And the elephant's in the room. Like, no longer do people join an organization and stay for 40 years, get the gold watch, and retire. So like, they're going to leave. It's so funny to me, like especially in accounting firms and professional services firms, when leadership is like, I'm so shocked they left. I'm like, really? What do you think? Like, I'm shocked you're still here. The odds of someone starting and then becoming a partner are, I don't know, less than 1%. Right. Like, you know how stats work? Like, this is crazy. And I always say back, I'm like, I'm shocked you're still here, to be honest. Like, I'm not shocked they left. Of course, like, the odds are in their favor. But how do we stack the deck to where, people are leaving and they're going somewhere? So why don't they come here? Or why don't they stay just a little bit longer? And why don't we increase the lifetime value of the employee just a little bit, get that curve to go a little bit higher and a little bit longer. And then all the value, the area under the curve is increased significantly. And, so I love the what you're talking about as well, of just, peeling back those layers of humans and being like, let's just be honest. Like, what are we doing here? And let's make it happen.
Yeah. We should almost have like baseball cards, but then we just have our hobbies and our interest on there. I have a picture and everybody has their own baseball card. Like, oh, John likes, Notre Dame. He likes stand-up comedy. Rory likes UCLA. He likes improv. Like, you can start, handing out those cards, and then you can start knowing your employees better.
That would be a significantly better business card than whatever the heck people hand out now with their Arial font and their fax number. Really, that's adorable in 2023. But it's just, but I just, why not? I think that would be awesome. If you were a firm and or an organization that, and even better, if you love sports, then everybody knows then, like, oh, well, clearly you're into sports.
Or if you have Harry Potter, we could have Harry Potter cards for you.
I mean, you're just, I would never forget you ever. I mean, it's
you're a wizard, John the Wizard.
Yeah, that's why we're here. I mean, like, that's why we're here, is to not be forgotten, right?
Right.
I mean, like, you're going to live your whole life and work all these hours and miss all these events for work in order for you to be completely forgotten and also completely replaceable. That's the other thing that's really scary is, somebody leaves an organization, you're replaced with someone else that's doing just as good as you, or maybe even a little bit better. And they completely forget you. Completely forget you. And it's like, because your technical skills are totally replaceable. I mean, half of them are done by AI now.
Yeah, that's what I say on the podcast. AI is taking more and more of that work over. I trademarked the term advise ROAR, with the ROAR being for return on relationship. because I think in the future here for professional services, you're not going to be a tax advisor or a business advisor or a financial advisor or estate planning advisor. You're just going to be an advisor, and you're pulling the many levers because you'll have AI at your fingertips.
Right.
But really, it's going to matter is that relationship and having a deeper, more meaningful impact on someone's life. And how do you do that? Is by uncovering what matters most to John Garrett, right?
Yeah.
Finding his fears out, his aspirations out, what he wants out of life. And you'd only do that when you can have a discovery meeting and get to, your values and what matters in all aspects of your life.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly it. And, I'd love to learn more of how we do crack that nut. Cause man, people are so, like, these other aspects of them are buried in the back basement, like in the corner. Like they're so scared to let anyone see that, or they've even forgotten what's there. And they're like, let's just not, like, it's not that big of a deal. And no, it is. Like, and it's so funny to me because, like, when I ask people about their ands, like, it's family to me is kind of a generic cop-out answer. Like, you're saying that because if you didn't say it, you think I'm going to judge you for being some kind of an a-hole. And it's like, no. Like, I get it. You love your family. Of course you do. But like, what is it that you do with your family? So like, maybe it's board games, maybe it's national parks hikes, maybe it's, going to sporting events. Like, that's the real and. You drag your kids along because you didn't feel like paying a babysitter. That's what that is, like, and so it's really getting even a deeper level of a little bit selfish, a little bit like, what do you do for you? And I think that we've lost that, and it's not a bad thing to be just a little bit sometimes, this is for me, and that's okay, and so I think that that's the hard part, that leap, that hump that people need to get over, is just, of course you like your job, of course you like your family, of course it's like, but people just go through these motions and no one actually pushes back and is like, I'm not buying it. There's something else there, and so that's the other thing is, poke at it a little bit and be like, this is who I am, and be like, really? I don't know. Like the Wizard of Oz, where it's like, let me see behind the curtain here. I don't know about that. Like, and then people start to get a little bit uncomfortable, but then once they share it and it's awesome, then the weight's off their shoulders. And like, I interviewed someone who's a chemical engineer in Australia. She's also a model. Like, and so she's working for petroleum companies, going out to oil rigs in the middle of nowhere where people haven't seen other people for 6 months.
Right.
And she didn't want to let anyone know that she's a model because she thought people are going to be like, oh, well, she's dumb, doesn't know what she's doing. She's just attractive. Blah. And then but then it started to become, who did I tell? Who didn't I tell? How much did I tell them about it? Like, and then it's exhausting of like, which part am I playing in this play now? Like, which play am I in? And then finally it got out and everyone thought it was awesome. Everyone thought it was cool. And she just felt so liberated from having to almost live a lie of like, this isn't who I am. I'm so much more awesome than this, but I'm afraid to share it with you because I think you're going to judge me. And it's like, no, if we're all going to let our awesome out, then everyone's awesome. Like, it's great, and we're not in 6th grade anymore where you're getting shoved into lockers, like, yeah, sure. You love Harry Potter. Let's talk about it. That's great.
Right?
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Let me get my wand out. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's like, all right, like, let's, and it'll surprise you, man. Like, some of these people that when you start to peel their layers back of what their and is, what these hobbies and passions are that they have outside of work, you're like, did not see that coming, but that's pretty awesome. Like,
what are some other ones besides the model who was working on the oil rig? What are some other ones? That really
one was the Harry Potter. She actually gets the Lego characters, and she lives in Scotland where they filmed like some of the movies. She'll go to the scenes where the movies were and recreate the Lego characters into the scenes and take pictures like down as if it were.
Does she have a YouTube channel? Does she have
the whole thing? I'm sure she's got some kind of Instagram to it all. For sure. And there's that. There's people that play the bass guitar in a band. That's an accounting firm partner, and you're like, All right. That's and just all kinds of things, guys that play rugby. I had a woman on who was a CFO who's on a roller derby team.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's just like, this is awesome. This is so cool. Like it's just so great to just see what lights people up.
Yeah. Now, so if I get it if you're leadership and you're running these firms, these organizations, why it makes sense. If you're an employee, you say, hey, John, I really want to get this movement out in the workplace. Is it just as easy as start opening up and telling people about, your aunts?
Well, I mean, you have to be a little judicious about it. Certainly you can't just like, hey, everybody,
mass email.
just so you know.
Right. I'm in roller derby. I crushed so-and-so over the weekend.
Right. Don't pass me in the hallway.
Right, don't pass me in the hallway.
Right.
Bring your skates to work, start skating around the office.
I think, so for me personally, when I started at PwC, that certainly wasn't part of the new hire orientation.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of
Yeah.
anything. It wasn't, how things are done here. But another guy and I, we just started writing an Onion Babylon Bee style newsletter. We called it the General Ledger, and every month we would send it out on firm email, which I'm sure was not the smartest idea, but email was kind of new then. And so we just did it. And it was amongst our start class, so kind of amongst our peers.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's, hey, did you hear what did you hear? And then all of a sudden I have a guy who 12 years later remembers me. And so, that I think just starting small amongst your peers, and then as you get promoted, then make your team just the most awesome team within the company. Just because you're not the number one top person doesn't mean that your little area can't be just amazingly awesome. And then everyone's gonna be like, hey, why is your turnover so low? How come everyone's so engaged? How come everyone's always happy? How come your people seem alive? How come they look at each other in the eye and talk to each other? Well, because we're humans, and I run a pretty awesome group, and I care about them as humans and not just the work part. And I mean, that's the thing that I hammer home, and is just value the worker as much as you value the work.
Yeah.
And organizations for so long value the work. We care about the work getting done. The work's got to get done.
Right.
Well, do you care about the worker that's doing the work?
Yeah.
And the pandemic really blew this wide open.
Highlighted, yeah.
And I turned my book in to my publisher in early 2020, and then 2 or 3 months later, all of a sudden the world shuts down, and I'm like, oh no. Like, my book hasn't even published yet, and it's going to be obsolete. This is going to be terrible. Like, oh my gosh, 2 years of research and writing and all this. And then luckily, I guess, this message became even more important through the hybrid workforce of being intentional with making that time. Maybe not every work call needs to be about work. Maybe it's just, hey, Rory, how you doing? What's up? How's it going? Tell me about the game you went to. Yeah. And then it's making those kind of conversations. But start small in your own little circle, and then, work your way up. Maybe you're on a committee, maybe you're on something. And whenever I work with organizations, there's always the fun committee, and then that usually exists. We're going to Top Golf once every 3 months or whatever. It's always that. But there needs to be a culture committee, and that's a group of people that are, what are we doing on the regular? What do we do daily or weekly? Where when somebody comes in here, they're like, wow, that's just what they do. That's just who they are. And what are those things that are happening? And so it's just dropping some of those in slowly, and seeing what works and making it happen. But yeah, I mean, being more human is always a good thing, in all aspects.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here from both the wealth management side and the accounting side. On the wealth management side, they say human first, and more the accounting side here, the people advisory. But really, it's the same message: is really connecting with people, shared humans who have that shared human experience to create deeper, more meaningful relationships. And I think that's what what wins out at the end. A lot of these successful organizations, companies, are the ones who care. They don't care how much you know. They want to make sure they know that you care.
Yeah.
And, I'm just seeing this movement of really, really trying to help people live their best lives, and not so focused on the KPIs and the deliverables. I mean, culture's really, who was it I had on? Oh, Sue Inquist, former head coach of UCLA softball. She coached my sister, and she says culture is driven by two levers. One is performance driven. The other was relationship driven. And I think organizations for the longest time really focus on those performance key metrics, those KPIs,
100%. Yeah.
deliverables. And it's those relationship aspects that are so important in today's day and age, making sure that you care for people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the relationship isn't, you worked 2 weeks and I paid you. Like, that's not the relationship, which, by the way, is like the most crazy thing when you think about it, that the employee goes in the hole 2 weeks and then we fill it back in. And so that's the thing, is that, the employees now are deciding whether or not it's worth it. Yeah. And so the way that I look at employment is just basically like, you need to know what that hole is that you're filling back in with cash. Yeah. And so, if you don't know what that is, then you can't appreciate it. You can't value it. And it's not on the organization to say, well, this is how much, you're worth. It's on the employee to say, yeah, you know what? That's not worth it. I'm out. And it's not just the salary, it's the whole basket, yes. Of all the perks, all the benefits. And you could probably pay people less if you had flexibility, if you had, things that matter to them. But if you don't know what matters to them, then you don't even know, because money doesn't matter to the generations now. Like, once you make a certain amount of money, they've done studies on this, like, it doesn't matter after that. Yeah. Like, basic needs are met and a little bit more. Yeah,
it's the Kahneman study. I actually referenced this on the podcast. Yeah. And it's funny though, you're right. They actually re-looked at that study, John. Oh, and okay. Yeah. So it's called collaborative. I forget the name for it, but anyways, another research came and says, hey, I don't know. Let's look at this. Let's look at the study again. Yeah. And find out if this is true. And what they came to the conclusion, Kahneman was part of it as well. They said that anything over 70 with inflation, 100,000 now, if you make over that, if you are unhappy to begin with, it didn't improve your well-being.
There you go.
But if you had a neutral mindset or a positive mindset, if you did make more money, it actually did improve your overall well-being. And that always struck me as like how it actually should be, because I know people with more money, over $100,000, allows you to do more things. You can pay someone else, you can free up time, you can have more experiences, right? So I think it's for those people who have that mindset. And I think everybody can have a great mindset, or a positive mindset. It's fulfilling what they are passionate about, right? So, if you're working and you're only concerned about work, I can see why you would have a negative mindset, right?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it's just, just finding out, like, what is it that lights people up? What is their currency? What is their love language, if you will? Yeah. And then pay them accordingly, in that. And it makes it so much harder, because now you're dealing with a bunch of individuals, instead of like the military, where we just give everybody buzz cuts and the same camouflage and just, you're all the same. But that doesn't work in the civilian world. And especially it doesn't work now. And anyone that's older that is grumpy about it is lying to themselves, because they wanted this when they were 22 as well, but they couldn't have it. And, and then like our generation, when we started, we were sort of like, this is weird, but we don't know anything. We can't do anything about it. Yeah. And then, now the generation's like, well, screw it. I'll just go out and start my own thing. Like, it's just like, okay, well that maybe swings too far, right. But it's like, it's just finding that balance and just peeling back the layers to there. And I've been talking about this and researching this for probably 7 or 8 years now. And it's nice to have other people coming along, like it's cool. Like, I'm like all for it. Just what's your and is a great way to just bring it to your organization where everybody knows what that means. Yeah. And now, instead of not knowing how to ask, you just say, hey, what's your and? Or oh, you have a different and, like, because it's a container and you can have different things in there. Sometimes it's UCLA football. Right. Sometimes in the spring, it's something else, like it's, and so you can switch it up. But it's just a cool way for for organizations to just have a way for people to communicate on a human level.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's wrap it up there here, John. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, you have a sparkling new website, johngarrett.com. I know I visited it the other day when it was under construction or coming up. It is wonderful. So I'm going to give you a plug. I know johngarrett.com is a good place to go, but if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah. Well, it's actually the johngarrett.com
Yeah.
because there's some John Garrett out there that doesn't even have a website. And so he hogged the domain and he won't let me have it. So I'm the John Garrett. So take that, other John Garrett guy. But what'syourand.com is also a great way to find me. And that's the podcast, the book, and also comes to the website as well. But yeah, what'syourand.com. Get a lot more information about, the research and the work that I'm doing.
I love it. All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Until next time.
Cool. Thanks, Rory. Appreciate it.
All opinions expressed by Rob Santos and Rory Henry on this website podcast interview are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Arrowroot Family Office LLC or their parent company or affiliates, and may have been previously disseminated on television, radio, internet, or another medium. You should not treat any opinion expressed by anyone as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinions. Past performance is not indicative of future results.